I don't get bit by mosquitoes. I don't know what it is. As I tried to take a scientific look into it, I thought maybe it was my blood type. I'm O positive. You know, like COVID doesn't affect me as bad as it did other people because I'm O positive blood type. But then I thought about it and I was like, that doesn't make any sense because I used to get bitten up bad when I was a kid. So then I started taking into account factors that have changed since I was a kid, such as the fact that I don't drink water anymore. I drink Diet Mountain Dew all day, every day. I drink Diet Mountain Dew. And it's embarrassing to say, but there are literally months where I go without drinking water whatsoever. Like, I just pop open a can of Diet Mountain Dew, and when I finish that Diet Mountain Dew, I drink more Diet Mountain Dew. I was sitting at work in class last week, and as we were in the middle of class, somebody came to empty out the recycling bin. And as they emptied out the recycling bin, they pull out the bag to the recycling and they lift it high up in the air and they're like, man, look at all this Diet Mountain Dew. And as they said that, everybody's head turned and looked at me. It was so humiliating. I don't even have a comeback for that kind of situation. Like, how do you combat that? Like, yeah, it was me that drank all the Diet Mountain Dew. I guess in normal eyes it's a problem, but to me it's just another day. I like Diet Mountain Dew, but it makes more sense that I wouldn't get bit by mosquitoes because I drink Diet Mountain Dew and so much of it than my blood type. Because like I said, I got bit up as a kid, but I don't get bit up now. So my blood type hasn't changed, so it must be what I'm drinking. But if that's the case, I'm kind of glad I drink Diet Mountain Dew all day because I don't want to be bit up by mosquitoes. When I was in Japan, we had to get a special shot because the mosquitoes were so dirty, they carried something called encephalitis. And I don't know if you know, but encephalitis is part of the herpes simplex virus. And you gotta love how many different names there are for herpes. I mean, we're talking about herpes that give you an itchy crotch. Nobody wants to call it herpes though because you don't want to be seen as disgusting. But what do you got? You got encephalitis, herpes, chicken pox, herpes, cold sores on your mouth, herpes, shingles, herpes. Yeah, you want to act so clean, there's all different kinds of herpes. And there's type 1 or type 2, but you can get either or anywhere on your body. But anyways, I don't get bit by mosquitoes. I went out fishing with my buddy one time. It was just turning dark outside and I loaded the boat in the water. We went out there and he's all like slapping himself and all this and I'm just like, you alright, bro? And I'm no scientist, but scientists started somewhere, right? They were just a normal person and they came up with a hypothesis. So that kind of makes me a genius. Because I discovered mosquitoes don't bite me, not because of my blood type, because of what I drink. I don't drink water, right? And water, you sweat it out, and it makes your body give a certain stench off that smells a certain way. But because I don't drink water, and I drink Diet Mountain Dew, my sweat smells differently than everybody else's. Like literally, my shoes, they never stink. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but my shoes, they don't stink. I'll wear boots for 12 hours a day, I'll take them off, you'll be like, who's home? To be honest, I don't even remember where we were going with this conversation. Today we have 5 more games that we're adding to the collection. Let's check them out. And the first game up is Final Fantasy II. Developed and published by Square, Final Fantasy II released for the Super Nintendo in 1991. King Baron sends a Dark Knight Cecil on a mission to steal a water crystal from innocent people. After he retrieves a crystal, he brings it back to the king and feels terrible for what he did. So he asks the king why he had him do that, and the king takes it as disrespect and takes him out of command of the Red Wings. He then gives Cecil a job of delivering a package to a nearby town. When he gets to the town, the package automatically opens and destroys the town. Despite the name Final Fantasy II, The game is the 4th installment in the Final Fantasy series. This is the only version of the game I played, but others say it's better to play it on other systems because the Super NES version is the worst. The graphics in the game are subpar compared to other RPGs we've covered so far. The music, however, is really nice, and I even sat on the title screen for a few minutes just listening to the relaxing music. The gameplay is fun. I especially like the way the battle system is set up, where it's quick action versus a long drawn out battle. I also like how you can just hit the L and R buttons to run away if you're just trying to get somewhere. Finally, the save feature in the game is really nice. You can save your game anywhere except dungeons. Overall, Final Fantasy II is a great game. I'll definitely come back to this one later on. Final Fantasy II is game number 126 for the collection, and price charting has it at $239. And at $239, that brings our total up to $23,434 for the collection. And the next game up is Family Feud. Family Feud was developed by Imagineering and published by GameTech. It released for the SNES in 1991. Family Feud is based off a TV show of the same name. The goal of the game is to answer survey questions that were given to 100 people. The better you answered, the more points you got. The game is a little outdated, but not nearly as bad as something like Sports Jeopardy! For example, one question was things you might forget in a restaurant. Cell phone obviously isn't going to be an answer since the game came out in 1991. It's also annoying that my answer of wallet wasn't accepted, but purse was. The biggest eyebrow raiser was doggy bag though. No one still uses that. Besides the outdated questions, there were some other questions I got wrong that definitely should have been right. Like something you should get appraised before buying. How is a house not on the list? Things people cheat on? Not test, huh? Or things that drive cats crazy. Surely mice should have been an answer. The biggest disappointment out of all the questions was foods that some people say is good but others say is bad. Eggs was a no-brainer. I remember the commercials in the 90s talking about, have you heard the great news about eggs? Talking about them being low in cholesterol. It was a huge debate if eggs were good or bad for you. The graphics are actually pretty good in the game for what it is. The music can get repetitive, but you have the option to turn it off. And the controls work as they should. Overall, Family Feud is an okay game if you like trivia games. It's outdated, but still playable. Family Feud is game number 127 for the collection, and it cost me $25 at a local game store. And at $25, that brings our total up to $23,459 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. Up next we have Kirby's Dream Land 3. Developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo, Kirby Dream Land 3 floated into stores in 1997. This is everything you'd expect from a Kirby game. Excellent graphics, a great soundtrack, and stellar gameplay. However, the game feels like previous Kirby games that came out. There wasn't a lot of new features in the game. The fact that this felt like playing a Kirby game you've already played before, and it releasing so late in the Super Nintendo's lifespan, made it a fairly uncommon game. Who's buying Kirby on the SNES in 1997 when you could buy a Nintendo 64 and play the new generation of games? That doesn't make Dream Land 3 a bad game, it's still a joy to play. In fact, I ended up playing all the way through the game for this review. It's always a good time swallowing enemies and finding out what abilities Kirby has. And then seeing how the abilities are altered when you team up with Kirby's friends. The possibilities are endless. One thing the game did add is a character GUI that could spawn on demand. Whenever he spawns though, he takes some of Kirby's health. Overall, Kirby's Dream Land 3 is a well-polished game for the Super Nintendo. It's definitely worth playing if you're a fan of the Kirby series. Kirby's Dream Land 3 is game number 128 for the collection, and I found the box and manual for $506 shipped. Then I later found the cart for $150 shipped. And that brings our total up to $656. And at $656, that brings our total up to $24,115 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. And the next game up is Natsume Championship Wrestling. Natsume Championship Wrestling was developed and published by Natsume, slamming onto the Super NES in 1994. If you're looking for a wrestling game that's all about timing, look no further than NCW. Seriously, your controller inputs need to be precise if you're going to make it anywhere in this game. Hitting buttons too early will make your character sluggish, and if you're too late, your opponent won't waste any time taking advantage of you. It took me a good 20 minutes of playing before I was even a match for the first guy. Once I got the hang of the controls and the timing down, I was able to progress through the game fairly easily. The game isn't licensed, so you get some interesting player names as a result. Asteroid, M. Roach, Big Ape, interesting to say the least. Other than the odd character names and the controls that have a steep learning curve, the game isn't too bad. I do have a few gripes about it though. First off, once you enter tournament mode, you're stuck in it. If you're getting destroyed in a match, you can't change your character. Even after you lose a match, it just makes you start the match over, which is really annoying. But the worst part in the game is the ref. He gets right in the way of the action. I found myself literally trying to look around his head so I could see my player like I was at a real event. I've never experienced that in a game before. Other than that, the visuals and sound in the game are both decent, and the gameplay is fun. But the matches can drag on a bit because each player has like 5 power bars you gotta make it through. Overall, NCW isn't a bad wrestling game for the SNES. It's definitely a better choice than Hammerlock Wrestling. Natsume Championship Wrestling is game number 129 for the collection, and I have $80 in trade for it. And at $80, that brings our total up to $24,195 for this SNES Quest. Last but not least is Gradius 3. Developed and published by Konami, Gradius 3 ported to the Super Nintendo in 1991. In the darkest quadrant of space, there turns a vortex of bad vibes. Bacterion, it has been called, is a malignant mass that has spawned all its wicked in the universe, feeding on the suffering of the innocent. It moves like a germ throughout the galaxy, manifesting itself in unspeakably hideous forms. In the past, Bacterion has only had the power to rear its ugly head on a few isolated occasions. That is, until now. You're the last hope for the people of Gradius. They built you $100 zillion starship called the Modulated Altiller Exalter, or MAX for short. And you must take out the Bacterion. Before you save Gradius, you select your ship setup. You can configure your max to however you like it. You can select from the setups the game already has, or modify your own ship. You get 3 ships to start the game. Man, that's like $300 zillion. You start out weak with just a pea shooter. As you take out enemies, you can find red pods to upgrade your weapons. Once your weapons are fully upgraded, it's super satisfying. You feel invincible. That is until you get hit one time. One hit and your ship blows up. Along with it goes all your weapons, which is a huge disappointment. There are many parts in the game, if you lose your weapons, you're better off starting over, because you start back with just the pea shooter, and it's near impossible to get through some areas with that. That really hurts the game. Another thing that really hurts the game is the extreme slowdown. This is the worst slowdown I've seen in any Super Nintendo game so far. It even has Pocky and Rocky Beat. Despite those significant problems, Gradius 3 is still a good game. The level designs are cool, graphics look great, and the controls are responsive. Overall, Gradius 3 is worth playing if you're a fan of shmups. Gradius 3 is game number 130 for the collection, and price charting has it at $63. And at $63, that brings our total up to $24,258 for the Super NES Complete Box Quest. Let's get these games on the shelf. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. I'm completing the entire Super Nintendo library, complete in box, right here on the show. Also, make sure to leave a thumbs up for Kirby's Dream Land 3. Until next time, I'm Gamer Wayne, and thanks for watching.